Hi, everyone. This is attorney Lillian with Lily Legal, and I am an immigration lawyer based in Worcester, Massachusetts. However, I have the honor and privilege of representing clients all over the US and all over the world. And today we are going to be talking about the frequently asked questions. Okay. So, if you are just joining me, feel free to put in the comments where you're joining me from. I know usually I have people joining from all over, so I just want to know where you're joining me from. If you have any questions before we even get started, if you have any questions, put them in the comments because again, even though I have questions, frequently asked questions for you, the purpose of these chats is for me to answer your questions live. So feel free to do that and put it in the comments. If you are watching this on the replay, thank you for watching. And also put your questions in the comments because I will be responding to them. It might be another frequently asked questions video, or I might just do a special video just answering your question. So feel free to do that. Put your questions in the comments. Welcome as you're joining. Feel free in the comments, put where you're joining me from. And if you have any initial questions, go ahead and put them in the comments, okay? And I will be responding as we go along. So today, like I said, from the intro, and the title, we are going to be going into immigration frequently asked questions. And we're going to do something a little different, not the typical, I'm a US citizen, can I file for my child? We're going to go into those, but I want to go a little step further because there's some questions that people have and they're not really sure where to get the answers to. So I want to make sure that I am covering those as well as the other questions that we get all the time. So we're going to go from complex to maybe not so complex if you've been watching my videos. Okay. So I just want to say welcome, Benjamin from Indianapolis, Indiana. Welcome. And then welcome, Kimberly. Hi there. Thank you so much for joining me. So if you're just joining, go ahead and put where you're joining me from. And if you have any questions already, go ahead and put them in the comments so that I can respond to you. That's the purpose of this. So know that. Go ahead and put your questions. So the first thing I want to cover, this is something that has come up several times for me in the past week. Okay, this has come up so many times in the past week that I want to cover it and make sure that you know this before you get into a situation that you don't want to be in. Okay, this has to do specifically with marijuana possession. Okay, so in some states, including Massachusetts, possession of marijuana for personal use is legal, right? So these are states that have made it legal for you to have some ounces of marijuana on you. However, however, I want to stress that in the federal level, right? So there's state law, there's federal law, there's state crimes and federal crimes. So we're talking federal crimes here. For federal, guess what? Marijuana possession is still a Schedule 1 drug. So marijuana is still a Schedule 1 drug. So possession of it is still illegal. Okay. Which is something, as we're going through the process, depending on where you live, if it's already legal where you live, you might just assume that it wouldn't be an issue for immigration purposes. But until the federal law changes, unfortunately, possession can still affect your immigration status. So if you are already a green card holder or you're already a citizen that's not really depending on how much you have on you. So less than 30 grams one time, right? A one-time charge of having less than 30 grams of marijuana on you um, is not going to lead to you being deportable. However, it's going to lead to you being able to be admissible. So what's the difference? So if you already have your green card and the US government wants to take that away from you and get you out of the US, that's a deportation or removal proceedings. If you don't have a green card and you're applying to get a green card, you are asking to be admitted into the US. And if you have a charge or conviction of possession of marijuana, even if it's legal in your state, that's really the key here. Even if it's legal in your state, you could still, you would still be inadmissible. Okay. So let me say that again. If you have a possession of marijuana charge and you are convicted of that charge and you want to apply to get your green card, the US government will still deny your case because you have that possession charge, even though your state made it legal for you to have that in your possession. I know. Every time I tell people this, it's like I'm breaking some news to them and just rocking their world. So I want to make sure that you know this before you go into the process, and you make sure that even if it's legal in your state, you still have to walk a fine line because once there's a conviction, you're going to have an issue when you're trying to apply for citizenship or apply for a green card. If you have less than 30 grams of marijuana conviction, that's one time. One time. If you have multiple of those, there's no waiver. But if you just have one charge of possession of marijuana under 30 grams, there is a waiver available, and it's going to be based on extreme hardship to a house, to a family member, or if it's been over 15 years since you had that conviction, you have to show rehabilitation. Okay, so if it's a one-time charge, less than 30 grams, there's a way for you to still get your green card. If it is more than 30 grams, or if you have multiple convictions, we need to talk. Okay. Either way, if you have a conviction, you need to be talking to an immigration lawyer before you even take the first step. Because once you put in that application, you're going through the process, you're going to find that charge, and you're going to have to either file a waiver, or if you don't qualify for a waiver, it can lead to you being deportable. So really pay attention before you file. Okay. So I just want to say hi to everyone that's joining. Hi, Leona. Hi there. Hi, Bayan. Thank you so much for joining. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. And I will be responding to you. So that was the first question I wanted to answer, was about marijuana possession and how it can affect your immigration status. Okay, so we're going to take Benjamin's question. I am filing in for my son from Africa, so I want to know, beside the I-130 form, will I fill in another form to send to the immigration office? Well, like I said last week, typically the initial form is the I-130. Once that's approved, you will go into the embassy stage. There are other forms you need to fill out at that stage, but the initial application is typically the I-130. I hope that answers your question. Okay. So feel free to put your questions in the comments, just like Benjamin did. I'm here to answer your questions. Okay. And if you are just joining me, feel free to say hi in the comments and just tell me where you're joining me from. Okay. Oh, you are so welcome, Benjamin. And thank you for your question. Okay, so the next question typically comes when people are filing to renew their green card, remove conditions on their green card, or applying for citizenship. So if you are in the process of renewing your green card or removing conditions on your green card or applying for citizenship and your green card has expired, how can you continue to work? How can you continue to show that you are a permanent resident? Right? Because if the card has the physical card has expired, does that mean you are no longer a permanent resident? And the answer to that is no. So there's a status and then there's proof of the status. So the green card is the proof of the status. The status does not go away just because the physical card has expired. Okay. And this is specifically for green cards, right? So you are a permanent resident whether your card has expired or not. If you need proof of your status, right? That's what the card is there for, is to prove your status. So if you need proof of your status, that's when you would then, while your renewal application is pending, or if it expired while you file for citizenship, depending on if you file for citizenship 6 months before the card expired, you can get something called an I-551 stamp. So what does the stamp do is it basically goes in your passport, and you can use that for anything you can use your physical card for. So if you need to travel, if you need to show proof of your status for work, that's what you will use that for. And how do you get the stamp? You have to make something called an InfoPass appointment. So you need to call the 800 number, schedule an InfoPass appointment so that you can get the stamp in your passport. Remember, this is for if your card has expired and you have filed to renew it, or you have filed to remove the conditions if you had a 2-year card, or if you are filing for citizenship and you applied for citizenship 6 months before the card expired. Those are the 3 situations where you can get that stamp in your passport. If you apply for citizenship and you didn't apply 6 months before the card expired, you cannot get the stamp unless you apply to renew the card. Okay, so that's really the trick there. If you're going to choose to apply for citizenship instead of renewing your green card, just make sure you do that at least 6 months before the card expires, just so you'll be able to get that stamp in your passport instead of having to pay to renew the card all over again. Okay, so just bear that in mind. And then the next question I get all the time is about adoption. Okay, if you adopt a child, how do you bring them to the US? Right, this is something that a lot of people go through. A lot of people want to know, especially in African countries where the a sister or a brother might pass away, and now you are responsible for the children and you want to adopt them and have them come and live with you in the US instead of them being over there. How do you even go through that process? And the answer is, you do not start the process without talking to a lawyer first. Okay, because it really depends on the country you're from. Some countries like Ghana is in the Hague Convention. They are a Hague Convention country, which means there are specific steps you have to take before you even qualify to adopt. Okay, and those steps have to take place in the US before you even go to Ghana to do the adoption process. So again, before you do the adoption process, if you are a US citizen and you are adopting from a Hague Convention country, you should be talking to an immigration adoption lawyer before you even start the process, because you have to make sure that you follow the right procedure. Okay, because you need a home study, you need an adoption service provider that's authorized by the US government. Okay. So it's not, I know who I want to adopt. I'm just going to go over there and adopt them and that's it. Nope. If it's a Hague Convention country like Ghana, you have to go through specific processes. Let's say it's not a Hague Convention country. Let's say it's a country like Nigeria that's not a signatory to the Hague Convention. What's the process? So there's really two. If the child is an orphan and you want to have them come as an orphan, you have to go through similar process with a Hague Convention country. You go through a service adoption service provider. You get certified, right? You do all these. There's several steps to it. Okay, so once you do those steps, then you can adopt. Okay. But if the child is an orphan but you want to live in the country with the child for 2 years, that's another option. So it's either you go through those adoption service providers and do all of that process, or you adopt the child and live with the child for 2 years. And when I say live with the child, I do mean live with the child. I don't mean have a family member take care of the child and you pay for the housing, the school, and all of that. No. Okay, that does not work. The US government will not allow that. There's several people that have had issues that basically did the adoption, had a family member take care of the child while they were in the US. And when they started filing for the child to come here, now US immigration is saying, well, you didn't follow the right procedure. Your child cannot come. And one thing to keep in mind with adoption is it has to take place before the child turns 16. Okay. For you to give immigration benefits, to file for the child as your child, you have to complete the adoption process before the child turns 16. So if, let's say, the child was 15 when you went and adopted and then had a family member take care of them, by the time you have the opportunity to fix it, the child might already be over 16 and you might not be able to, even if you're able to fix the adoption part of it, you might not be able to file for them to come. So it's really important that before you even start the process, that you make sure that you're speaking with a lawyer to see which process you actually have to go through. If it's the Hague Convention process, the orphan process, or the 2-year residency process. Okay. And depending on the one that you choose, there's different requirements, there's different forms, and you have to make sure that you meet all those requirements. Okay. So that's what I wanted to cover about adoption. And again, if you are just joining me, please feel free to tell me where you're joining me from. Ask me all your immigration questions in the comments. If you're watching on the replay, feel free to do the same. Ask me all your questions in the comments. Let's see, Benjamin, I am a paralegal. So my question is, can I help a friend to fill in his immigration paperwork without violating the law? And is Liberia a Hague Convention country? So when it comes to whether you can fill out the form, so there's something called unlawful practice of law in the US. And if you're not a lawyer, you cannot practice law. So that's the short answer. So if someone, it's one thing if like someone can't speak English, but they know that they need to fill out an I-130 and they just need you to help them fill it out. You are not telling them which forms to fill out because that's practicing law. You're analyzing their situation and giving them legal advice as to which forms to fill out. That's not legal. Okay, so if you are doing it under a lawyer, right? So if you are a paralegal for a lawyer and the lawyer is assigning you a case, then that is fine because you are doing it under the supervision of a lawyer. But if you're doing it on your own, that is considered unlawful practice. Okay. Let's see, Frederick. So Frederick has a question. Hello, hi there. As a green card holder, can you invite a relative, example, your mother, to the US? If yes, what are the steps? This is a great question. This is an amazing question. So, as a green card holder, it really depends if your mother is coming here just to visit or if they're trying to come here and stay permanently with you. A green card holder cannot file for a parent to come here and stay permanently. If it's just for your mother to visit, then you would be going through the visiting visa process of showing that she has reasons to go back. She's not coming here to stay permanently. And I have a whole video on the visiting visa process, what you need to show, what type of documents that you need to provide. So after this, I will probably put a link to the video for you in the comments so that you can go through that video and see exactly the steps and the documents. So the first step is making sure that she qualifies and she can show enough ties to her home country that even after she visits you, that she will be going back. So it's basically convincing the US government, the immigration officer that interviews her, that after she's in the US for however long she's coming to visit, that she will go back. And you do that with documentation of her ties to the community, her family ties, economic ties, and things like that. So thank you for that question. And then just a offshoot from that question, if you are a permanent resident and you want your mother to come, you just have to keep an eye on when you can become a citizen, because once you're a citizen, you can file for your parents to be able to come and stay. So that's a benefit that only US citizens have. So just keep that in mind if that is part of your immigration goals, is that not only do you yourself get status, but you want to also have your parents get status in the US. You just have to make sure that once you're eligible to become a citizen, that you go through that process of actually applying for citizenship. All right. So again, thank you for joining me. If you have any questions, please go ahead and put it in the comments and I will be responding to you. Again, frequently asked questions, we are going to be going through those. And one thing I want to cover is all about how long is it going to take? That's one question I get all the time, is how long is it going to take if I am, example, if I am a US citizen and I want to file for my sibling. How long is that going to take, Attorney Lillian? And the short answer is it's going to take several years. It can take over a decade. Okay? Because right now they're processing things from like 12, 13 years ago, right? So people that filed 12, 13 years ago are now having a visa available. So you can use that to see how long it's actually going to take for you to be able to get a visa available for your family member, okay? So what you want to do, if you are in that situation that you're filing for someone that's not an immediate relative. So you're a US citizen, immediate relatives are spouse, parents, children under 21, unmarried children under 21 of US citizens are considered Unmarried children under 21 of U.S. citizens are considered immediate relatives. Once the child gets married, even if they're under 21, they are no longer considered immediate relatives. If they are over 21, they are no longer considered immediate relatives. Okay, that's something to keep in mind. And in those situations, they'll be put in something called the preference category. And in those categories, there's only so many visas available per year. Okay, so for example, for let's say the married sons and daughters of US citizens, there's only 23,400 visas available per year. Okay, so that means it's going to take some time for a visa to become available if you are going through that process. So just to give you an idea of how long that is, people that filed November of 2008 are now having a visa available to them. Okay, November 2008, if you file for your married son or daughter and you're a US citizen filing for your married son or daughter, and you file for them November 2008, just know a visa will probably be available before the end of the year for them. If you're filing today, you just do the math and add however many years that is. Okay, so it is going to take some time, but what I say all the time is, how long have you been a US citizen, right? It's going to take time, but just file it, keep it there, and wait for it to process. And then for brothers and sisters of US citizens, they are processing applications from March 2007. Okay, so again, it's going to take over a decade for that application to go through and for there to be a visa available. So just keep that in mind. It's not about when the I-130 is approved, it's when there is a visa actually available for the person to go to the embassy and get the interview. Okay, so even if you have an approved I-130, until there's a visa available, you're not getting an interview at the embassy. Okay, so I just want you to know where to go to get this information. Is the visa bulletin. Every month there's a new bulletin available. If people are interested in me going over the visa bulletins, just let me know in the comments. I can go through them every month to basically tell you what's coming up, who is moving up in the process, and who needs to have more patience. Okay, so if you're interested in that, just go ahead and just put it in the comments or just hit the like button, and I will do a monthly visa bulletin review with you so that you know what's going on and you can better plan on what you want to do. Okay, and then for, like I said before, immediate relatives are U.S. citizens. U.S. citizens that are filing for spouse, children, unmarried children under 21, and parents. Those are immediate relatives. Now, if you are a permanent resident, your family is not considered immediate relatives. However, there is some processes that make it possible for you to get there sooner than most people. So, for example, for the F2A category, which is the sons and children under 21 of permanent residents, you're looking at just however long the application takes to process. So there is a visa immediately available, even though there's a specific number of visas available per year, right? There's a specific number of visas available per year. However, right now, those visas are not being used up. So it's current, which means if you apply now, you are most likely going to get your family their visa in almost the same time frame as a U.S. citizen applying for an immediate relative. So if the timing is what's stopping you, go ahead and do that if you are a permanent resident filing for unmarried children. Okay. All right, so I'm going to answer Benjamin's question. And I'm sorry I missed the last part of your question. Is Liberia a Hague Convention country as it relates to adoption? So I might have to get back to you. Off the top of my head, I would say no, that it's not. The last time I looked at it, it was not part of the Hague Convention. But for me to really give you the proper answer, I'm going to just comment on your question later with the definite answer. Okay, so just stay posted for that. Let's see. Can a green card holder start a citizenship application after 4 years, 4 years and a half, 4.5 years, or exactly 5 years? Okay. That's a great question. So yeah, you can file at 4.5 years. You just have to meet the requirements, right? So you have to meet the 30 months. So the typical is 5 years, and that you have been physically present in the US for at least 30 months. So that's 2.5 years of that 5 years. And that you did not break your residency. So you were not out for more than a year at a time. So that will break your residency. And you would basically have to start over counting the 4 years, the 5 years. So if that's so for this, yes, 5.5 years is fine. You don't have to wait until the 5 years. Okay. That's a question that people have all the time, that yes, the requirement is 5 years. However, you can apply early. All right. So Striker is asking, any idea on MVC this year? Up to present, my daughter interview has not been scheduled, almost 5 months. So if you want, Striker, you can put in the comments what country specifically, because I can tell you some countries are still not scheduling interviews. So that's something to keep in mind. COVID has messed up a lot of the embassies, and they are not able to schedule interviews at the moment. Or if they are, they're limiting the number of interviews they're scheduling, which means the National Visa Center cannot really send you. Liberia is starting to schedule interviews, but it's still limited. Remember, all of last year, since March 2020, up until I believe earlier this year, they were not scheduling any interviews. They had to cancel interviews that were already scheduled. So you have to think about this almost a year of backlog that they need to get through before they get to your application. So it's going to take a lot of patience on your part to really go through this process. But yes, 5 months on a typical, if this was 2019 and you were waiting 5 months to just get an interview date, I would say, oh, that's too long. Let's contact the National Visa Center and get you and get that process moving along. But we're in 2021, the pandemic happened. It's going to take longer. So just have some patience. I know, not the answer you want, but at this point, patience is really your friend. Just know it's going to come. It's just going to take a bit longer than you want. Okay. So Frederick is following up from his citizenship question, and he's asking, is 30 months continuous or does it matter? So you have to, it's not continuous, right? So it's not 20 months, it's not 30 months at a time. But if you break the residency, you have to start over. Does that make sense? So if you're out of the US for more than 6 months, it kind of messes up your 30 months. Okay. So you have to make sure that if you are leaving the US, you're not breaking that time. Okay. You're allowed to travel, right? That's what I tell everyone. You're allowed to travel outside of the US while you're a green card holder, but just make sure you're not out enough that you're not making that 30 months. Okay. So you're not expected to just stay in the US for 2.5 years without going anywhere. You just want to make sure that you don't break your residency in a way that will make it that you no longer qualify for that 30 months. Okay. And that 30 months is physical presence versus the 5 years of continuous residency. Okay. The 5 years continuous residency means that for 5 years, US has been your home. You have not left the US for more than a year. You have been residing in the US. The 30 months is physical presence. Okay. So I think that is all the questions in the comments. If you are just joining us, feel free to put your questions in the comments. I am happy to respond to them. We got through some of the questions, but I am so glad you asked your own questions so that we can really, you can really get a lot out of this. The purpose of these is to really answer your questions for us to chat about what's going on and the best ways to get information is to ask questions. Okay. So if you have any questions, if you're watching this on the replay and you have questions, feel free to go ahead and ask them. Okay. I am happy to respond. Now, the next question I want to cover, okay, is how to prepare for your interview and ace your interview. Okay. That's something that I get asked all the time. How do I make sure that when I go to the interview, I don't mess up my case? And the easiest way to mess up your case is to not know what's in your actual application. Okay. So the first thing I suggest is that you go through your application because the officer is going to ask you questions based on what you filed. Okay. So if you put on your application that your wife was born on May 2nd, 1990, and then during the interview, you say your wife was born on June 3rd, 1989, you see how that will be a problem, right? So you really want to make sure that whatever is in your application that you know the answer for during your interview. The next thing is being calm. I know it's a stressful situation going into an interview, especially if it's a marriage-based interview where the officer is basically trying to find ways to deny your application or to say that your marriage is not real. It can be very, very stressful. But the best thing you can do is stay calm, right? Stay calm, answer the questions. The officer is going to ask you a bunch of questions, right? But they're going to start with what's in your forms. So know your forms. And then be prepared to answer questions about yourself, your spouse, and your life together. That's really what the questions are about. On a basic level is, do you know your spouse? And what's your life together like? Right? You should, I have a whole video on immigration interview questions for spouses. So feel free, if you're in that situation and you're getting ready for your interview, to watch that video and just get yourself ready for the type of questions that you're going to get, because you don't want to get there and that be the first time that you're getting those questions, right? Something I do with my clients is we do a mock interview. I schedule a time and they come in and I basically become an immigration officer, ask them a bunch of questions, and try to see how they do. Sometimes people, get tripped up on certain things, and I have to, after the mock interview, I go through and basically list out, okay, so these questions were not really the same, or you didn't know basic informations. Let's see what's going on there, right? Sometimes, and I get this a lot. I'm sorry, but sometimes I get this a lot where, one person will say, "Oh, when was your first date?" And one person would be like, "Oh, it was at, Dunkin' Donuts on this day." And then the other person would say, "Oh, we went to dinner at this restaurant on this day." And the thing is, both answers are correct. And you're probably wondering, how are both answers correct? Because sometimes one person would see the fancy dinner, getting dressed up and going out as the first date. And then someone else might see the, oh, we're grabbing coffee and just getting to know each other as the first date. So it really, and that's why I like doing the mock interviews, because that's where I get those, and I can easily help people figure out what's going on, why their answers might not be the same, and we can talk about it and see, oh, actually it is accurate. It's just you're having different perspectives. So it's really important that you go through that process. So Benjamin is asking, are you a lawyer? Yes, I am a licensed lawyer here in Massachusetts, and I do only immigration law at my firm. So yes, I am a licensed U.S. immigration lawyer. Thank you for asking. I think sometimes people might not be clear on that, but yes, definitely an immigration lawyer licensed in the U.S. Thank you for that question. Okay, so if anyone else has any questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. That's all I have for the frequently asked questions. I am so glad that you all are so engaged and asked me so many questions. Like I said, that's why I do this. I want to make sure that you are getting the answers to the questions that you have, and you might not be able to get somewhere else. So feel free to ask me. If you want to have a one-on-one meeting with me, you can do that by calling my office at 508-443-1788 and scheduling a consultation, or by going to my website, lilylegal.com, and just click on the schedule a consultation button, and you'll be able to do that as well. And also, the link is always in the description to my videos. Let's see, we have one more question. Let's see. For a green card holder who had to come to the US last year in order not to be over a year outside the US because of COVID, could not come, what are the steps to follow? Okay. So if the person was outside of the US for more than a year due to COVID, yeah, they should be contacting an immigration lawyer to figure out the best the best possible way to do that, because once you're outside for a year, it's going to be harder for you to come in. However, what we have been seeing is that if the person's card is still valid and they can show proof of the reason that they were not able to come back to the US. I know some countries where some airlines were canceling flights for certain countries, and people were not able to even get a plane ticket to leave the countries that they were in. So if that's the situation, the person can show that proof at the airport once they get into the US. But before they do that, they should be talking to an immigration lawyer and make sure that they have the documentation that will allow them to come back into the US if they are in that situation. But yes, it's not impossible. It's very possible. They just really have to show proof of why they were not able to come back. It will, however, affect their ability to apply for citizenship right away. Okay, so if they had 4 years 4.5 years before they left, and now they're out for a year. They would need another 4 years and a day before they will be able to apply for citizenship. But can they come back to the US? Yes, they would just need proof of why they weren't able to come in. And Benjamin, yes, I can definitely repeat my phone number and email. So the phone number is on the screen. It's 508-443-1788. And the email is info@lilylegal.com. And Lily Legal is LILLYLEGAL. And I will put that also in the comments after this so that you will have that as well. So if there are no more questions, that's all I have for you today. As always, if you found this helpful, please do share it with your community. Like the video, subscribe if you're watching in a place you can subscribe. And please, if you haven't checked out my YouTube channel, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I will be doing if I do the visa bulletin look every month, it will be going on the YouTube channel. So if you don't want to miss that, just go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. The link is all in the description of this video. Follow us on Instagram @LilyLegal and Facebook @LilyLegal. As always, thank you. And if you want to schedule a time with me, feel free to schedule a consultation, and I am more than happy to help you in your immigration journey. So thank you all so much for being so engaged and asking me all of your questions. Thank you, and I will see you next week with more immigration chat. Bye for now.